Hello everybody, welcome back to the Big Ed channel. Today I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different. I'm kind of working on a bigger video about writing. It's a very personal video to me, to be honest, and that'll be coming out soon. But while I'm working on that, I kind of wanted to give you guys more of a return to form, as in this video is going to be about gaming. I like TF2 a lot. I love the game. I think it's my most played game on Steam. On my PC in general. I've had my PC for about 4 years, so quite a lot of hours. But today I just wanted to go through what I think are the best loadouts for casual play. Best in quotation marks, of course, but let's get into it. So first off, we got the man himself, the Scout. Now for reference, I am a Scout main, so obviously I'm going to be a little bit biased, but the loadout I typically run is like the competitive one, I believe. So I've got the Scattergun, the default pistol, and the Boston Basher. I didn't typically run this loadout for a myriad of years, but in recent months I've kind of warmed up to it because I think the default scattergun is still the best one. You know, there might be some debate about that. I've seen a lot of people vouch for the fucking soda popper for whatever reason, but I still think the default is the most consistent. The pistol, I used to run the Mad Milk a lot, and I'll show the loadout I used to run in a second because it was very different to this. But I think the pistol is good. I prefer to play Scout as more of a frontal assault class rather than a flanker. But if you prefer to, you know, pick off stray targets, then I think that the pistol is probably the best secondary for that. And thirdly, the Boston Basher is just really good for close range engagements. I'll go to the loadout that I used to use. So I used to use default scattergun, Mad Milk, and the Rap Assassin. I think the Rap Assassin isn't the best nowadays. It's just because I think if you're using a long range engagement tool, the pistol's better. And you know, more often than not, you're in one-on-one close battles, and the Rap Assassin just kind of sucks in that. But I think Mad Milk is still extremely good. And if you prefer Scout in the sense where you prefer to kind of fight on the front line, you know, with your team, then the Mad Milk is such a good support tool. Now, obviously, as a Scout main, I fucking hate Soldier, but if on the rare occasions I do play Soldier, and you know, it's not a jealousy because Soldier is probably the best class in the game in terms of just all-roundedness, I would go with this loadout. You know, it's pretty basic, it's pretty standard. We've got the default rocket launcher, the Contra, and the escape plan. The Contra is arguably, probably is the best banner, like, and it's not even really that close. You know, I think the Battalion's backup is really good too, but I think the Contra, more often than not, gives you that extra layer of survivability, because in a lot of casual games, you're not going to have a medic. So using that and the escape plan to get to health packs is really good. I don't tend to rocket jump that much, you know, I don't tend to use the rocket jumper or the market gardener, but I think the rocket launcher is good enough where it is good consistent damage, but it's also really good for just general movability, damage output, and all around just being a fucking good soldier. Now the Pyro mains are gonna hate me for this one because I don't like flare guns. I know, bit of a shocker, but I still do think that playing a switch Pyro is good, whether that be a flare gun or a shotgun, which I prefer to do. So I got the Degreaser and I've got the Panic Attack because I think the Panic Attack is best at close range, and as Pyro, more often than not, you're going to be at close range. So typically my move is to fire them up, apply afterburn for at least a second, and then switch to the shotgun to finish them off. That's typically how I play. If you play different, fair enough, but I think everyone can agree that the Power Jack is easily Pyro's best mate. Like, you know, there's no real fucking contest, let's be honest. If I'm feeling more of in a defensive mood, I do like to play Pybro occasionally. So I've got the standard flamethrower because it's the best at reflecting, the thermal thruster for movability, and the home wrecker for getting rid of sappers. I don't usually play this often, but usually on defense of payload maps, I think Pybro is actually probably at his best because they tend to be the more open maps, such as, you know, Badwater, Swiftwater, etc. But I think Pybro is kind of good, but more often than not, I'm playing Switch Pyro. Demo main isn't a character I play often. I don't really like more grenade and explosive characters, if you couldn't tell by my disdain for soldier mains, but I still think that default grenade and sticky bomb is just the way to go. I think the melee you can kind of just half-ass a little bit, you know. Some people run, you know, the Islander. I usually run the half Satoshi, but, you know, I think any of the melees with those default weapons it'll probably do you a lot of good. For demo night, I usually go the bootlegger, tide turner, and the Islander, but that's pretty standard. I'm not the biggest fan of the splendid screen or the charge and charge, because I think more often than not, the added maneuverability will do you more better than harm. I was going to say more harm than good, but it's the other way around. But overall, I'm not the biggest fan of Demo Man, but fucking hell is he powerful sometimes. Now, what really pisses me off is that I have the most cosmetics for heavy out of any class in the game, which sucks because I'm pretty sure he has my least playtime in the entire game. But the way I like to play heavy is kind of similar how I like to play soldier, as in it's focused on self-sustainability. So I've got the default minigun, the second banana, and the GRU. I think the second banana is arguably better than the sandwich because of its recharge rate, because like I said, more often than not, you're not going to have a medic. So being able to quickly heal yourself is better than maybe that little bit of extra, the 33% more healing you get from the sandwich. And the GRU is just good. You know, it's really good for getting back on point, especially those overtime moments. And the minigun is just, it's solid. You know, a lot of the default weapons in TF2 are still arguably the best ones in each class. But overall, I think focusing on self-sustainability in a casual setting for heavy is probably the way to go. Now, I love playing Battle Engineer. Battle Engineer is probably one of my favorite things to play in the game. So for Battle Engineer, I usually kind of switch out between the Panic Attack and the default shotgun, because either of them are really good. I tend not to use the Widowmaker because I think that your metal is probably better spent on your mini sentries. So as such, I don't tend to use the short circuit. I just tend to prefer to use the default pistol and of course the gunslinger. Now, for defense engineer, I've just got the most basic setup, to be honest, like the Rescue Ranger, Wrangler, and Jag, because I just think that the most consistent, the Rescue Ranger, you know, your sentry has a lot more health and maneuverability with the Rescue Ranger, and you know, when you're playing defense engineer, your sentry is your fucking life. You know, that's why you got the Wrangler too, to help with both defense and offense, and the Jag is just, you know, probably the best wrench in the game. Medic is just, you know, medicing, you know, who else up medicing their shit right now? But like everyone says, the problem with medic is that kind of like 2 out of his 3 slots are kind of already determined, because the Crusader's crossbow is probably the best primary and the Ubersaw is definitely the best melee weapon. What matters is what medigun you prefer to use. Me personally, I like to use the Vaccinator. I know Vaccinator in casual is a dick move, but it's the most mentally stimulating in the sense where it's the most engaging medigun to use. But if I don't use the Vaccinator, I tend to use the Quick Fix because I think it's probably the best for dealing with a wide range of teammates, you know? And I think that the added maneuverability is good, especially if you're doing a medic, soldier, or demo man, especially a demo man with either the boots or the bootlegger. But overall, I think Vaccinator is just the most fun to use as medic. And from down under, you know, fucking representing home and country here. Sniper, but pretty default loadout. You know, we've got the default sniper rifle, the Cozy Camper. I think it's his best backpack. I think it's better than the Darwin's Danger Shield, because if you keep your distance right, then afterburn shouldn't really be an issue. But I think the Cozy Camper, like the best attribute about it is the no flinching, because when you don't have it and you get damage as sniper when you're scoped in, you kind of like shift around a little bit, and it's different. And it's harder to kind of hit your shots from that. But I think the Cozy Camper kind of fixes that issue. And default Kukri, you know, if you're not running Girardi, then it's kind of weird to run the Bushwhacker. But you know, if you're doing Huntsman Sniper, then easily you can either do the SMG or the Bushwhacker. Now, time for the sneaky Frenchman himself, the Spy. As you'll notice, a common theme along the loadouts is just, you know, the defaults are the best, and that is very consistent with Spy. I tend to run the default revolver, default knife, but the watch is a little bit different. I think that the Dead Ringer is really good on offense. I think it's a bit weaker when you're playing defense. But I think it's as an offensive tool, if you want to play aggressive, then the Dead Ring is amazing. Because essentially a get out of jail free card, you know, you fuck up, you can go. Obviously, it doesn't work 100% of the time, but like I said, it's really good if you want to play aggressive. I don't like the cloak and dagger because it is not aggressive pretty much at all. Because a lot of it's kind of like turtling, because it kind of drains based off movement, and you don't get any can't get any motion back from ammo packs when you're invisible. That's why the Inviswatch, I tend to use that more than often, because I think it is more consistent than anything else. So like I said, default revolver, default knife, and usually either dead ring or default watch. But I'd be curious to think what your guys' loadouts is. These are just what I think are kind of the best in casual from my hundreds of hours of experience. But please let me know if you agree or disagree down below.